I'm Jesse, and you're watching Too Early TV.
You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah!
Now before we go ahead and take a look at the iPod Touch itself, let's go ahead and see what comes in this little box here. Now aside from the iPod Touch, of course, we get the standard white iPod earbuds, which you can see here. We also get this dock adapter here. And to be honest, out of all the iPods I've ever owned, I've never actually used this thing, so I probably won't be using this one either. Now we also get the USB adapter here. And we also get this little nice black polishing cloth here. If you look at the iPod Touch, you can see there's quite a few fingerprints all over it, so this thing can be quite useful. And last but not least, we have this little piece of clear plastic here. Now, what is this, you ask? Well, let me go ahead and move the box back and set this thing down here. And let me get the iPod Touch. And as you can see, it can act as a stand here. Now, as you can see, you can hold the iPod Touch vertically, or we can also turn the iPod Touch on its side, and you can hold it horizontally as well. It's great for watching movies, but I'm not quite sure why you'd want to hold it here in the vertical position. Because if you do place it in this position, you lose access to the adapter down here on the bottom of the iPod. So you can't actually connect this thing to the computer. However, you can stick this thing upside down and connect it to the computer, but everything on the screen then is upside down. So it's pretty much just for watching movies, I would think. However, I would imagine if you're watching movies on this thing, you're probably on the go, so you probably won't be using this stand anyways. So let me get that out of the way here. And I have one more thing to comment on here. I was going to talk about the box here, and that was important because of the picture on the box as well as the serial number on the back, because some of the early models of the iPod Touch were having a screen issue with displaying deep dark black colors. But that seems to have been fixed with a recent firmware upgrade, so there's really no reason to comment on the box at this time. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive into my review of the iPod Touch here. Alright, so let's see what this thing can do. Now, to actually turn on the iPod Touch, we have two options. We can use the on-off switch at the very top left here, or we can also use the menu button down here on the bottom face of the iPod Touch itself. Once we actually do that, we're taken to this lock screen here. And at the very top, you can see we have the current date and time. In the background here, we have this nice background image, which we can actually select ourselves. And at the bottom here, we have this slider, which says slide to unlock. So I'm going to go ahead here and slide it. That will unlock the iPod Touch, and that takes us to this desktop screen here. Now the colors are a little off here in this video. I've tried to tune the camera so that we get the best colors from the iPod Touch itself. However, they are brighter on the iPod Touch itself once you view it in person. So I'll just run down the list of icons here and show you what each one does. And we'll go ahead and start with the very first one here, which is the Safari web browser. And that takes us to the tfwire.com homepage. Now, in order for the Safari web browser to work, you have to have Wi-Fi access, of course. Now, let me go ahead and demonstrate some of the features here of the Safari web browser. And we'll start with scrolling here. If we want to scroll down, we just put our finger at the bottom of the screen and move it up. If we wish to scroll back up, we just put our finger at the top and slide it down. If you notice, the text might be a little hard to read, so we can double tap on the screen, and that will zoom us into a default zoom. We can double tap it again here. There we go. And that will zoom us back out. Let me go ahead and zoom in again. If we wish to zoom in further, we can put our fingers together and actually separate them. That will zoom us in quite a ways there, as you can see. If we wish to zoom back out, we can pinch our fingers together here. Or we can also double tap the screen here. There we go. That will take us back out to the default zoom. And if we double tap again, that will take us all the way back out. Now, if you don't like holding the iPod in the vertical position here, we can also hold it in a horizontal position. And as you can see, the web page instantly changes to the widescreen format here. All the features remain the same in terms of the scrolling and the zooming and everything. So, and we also have bookmarks down here at the bottom. Let me go ahead and close that. And we also have this little button down here, which allows us to have multiple web browsers open at the very same time. If you look here at the bottom left corner, it says new page. I'll go ahead and open a new page here. Let me type in an address here. Let's go to my other website, tooearly.tv. We'll pull that up here and show you the speed of the Safari web browser here. And as you can see, we have all the same features here in terms of the scrolling. I really like the web browsing capabilities here. I really like the fact that we can have multiple windows open on such a small device as well. The only problem is that it doesn't currently support Flash. Let me scroll down here and try and show you a video. Let's see, where do I have a video here? Actually, you know what? Let me go back to the tfwire.com website here. I'll show you. There we go. We got a video right there. Here is Spada's flash video of Deluxe Dropkick, and as you can see, we can't actually view the video window there. We get the missing plugin icon. Hopefully, at some point, Apple will be adding flash support here via a future firmware update, but right now it doesn't support flash. Though you can watch YouTube videos, which brings us to our next icon here, which is YouTube. Let me go ahead and tap on YouTube here. That'll bring us to the search page here. Let me go ahead and tap on the featured videos down here at the bottom. And these are a bunch of different videos currently featured on YouTube here. Let me scroll the list. Let's see. Here's one called Space Toilet. I have no idea what this is, but let's go ahead and view it. As you can see, the video automatically loads in a widescreen horizontal format here. So we'll have to turn the iPod. We'll start playing the video, and there you go. We have full motion video here on the iPod Touch. Now, as you'll notice, there's no volume coming out here. That's because Apple did away with the external speaker. That's something the iPhone currently has. So if you actually want to listen to anything off this thing, you'll have to actually plug in the headphones using the headphone jack in the bottom here. So let me go ahead here and zoom back out here to the menu. We'll go to the next icon on here, which is Calendar. Actually, let me go back to YouTube here for a second. I didn't show you all the features here. You can view YouTube videos this way, using the icon off from the desktop. You can also use the Safari web browser as well. Let me go ahead and show you the search here. I'll do a search for my account on YouTube here. Take a few seconds to load, and we have all my videos currently up on YouTube here. Now again, we can view YouTube videos this way, but we can also access them through Safari. The only advantage of using YouTube this way is that the interface is specifically designed for the iPod Touch as well as the iPhone. So let me go ahead and go back to the desktop and show you the calendar here. Now the calendar allows us to view different dates and times and everything, but if we look at the bottom, it says no events, and that's because I don't have any events currently scheduled for this date. Why is that, you ask? Well, that's because Apple removed that functionality of actually adding events to a specific day on the calendar. Now that is a feature you can use on the iPhone. However, why Apple chose to remove that feature from the iPod Touch is beyond me. I don't know. However, I have been reading that supposedly this feature may be added in a future update to the iPod Touch. But currently you can't do that, so let me go ahead and go back to the desktop here. Let's look at the contacts. I don't actually have any contacts added, but let me go ahead and click on plus. Here's where you can enter different contacts. You can enter in their name, their phone number, email, their website, their address. You can also add a picture on here. Let me go ahead and get back out of this. And let me go back to the desktop here. Alright, so let's look at the next thing, which is the clock here. It's just a clock, of course. I have mine currently set for Detroit, which is 12:25 p.m. If we look down here at the bottom here, we can set alarms here. I have none set, of course. It does have the stopwatch feature. As you can see here, I can start and stop it. We can set laps, we can reset it, and we can also set a timer as well. Let's go back to the desktop here and look at the calculator. Now, I don't know if this is something I would ever use, but it does look pretty cool, especially with the touchscreen interface. So just going to the desktop and clicking on the calculator application turns it into one big touchscreen calculator, which is kind of cool. I can play around with it here. Again, it's not something I would probably ever use, but it is kind of nice to have on there. Okay, so let's go back to the desktop and pull up the settings here. Now the very first setting on here is Wi-Fi, and as you can see, I'm currently connected to the Toy Store 3, which is just the name of my local Wi-Fi connection here. If we go into that option here, let me go ahead and go into it. You can turn Wi-Fi on and off. We can look at the different networks which are available. Let me go to brightness next. We can turn auto brightness on and off, or we can just use the slider and select the brightness. Let me look at general here. You can just set the wallpaper, date and time. You can set the auto lock, sound effects, the keyboard. Just a bunch of different general options which you can set on the iPod Touch here. Let's look at the keyboard. We can set auto capitalization, caps lock, shortcut keys, things along those lines. Next up, we have music here. Oops, there we go, music. We have sound check option, audiobook speed, volume limit, and EQ. We go back here. Let's look at video. We have the option of playing video from where we left it off. We can turn closed captioning on and off. For TV output, we can set whether we want to output a widescreen or not, and we have the TV signal option here. Now, I've never actually hooked this up to my TV, but from what I've read, I believe starting with the iPod Touch, Apple will require a proprietary cable to actually output the video from this to a TV. And I find that pretty shitty on Apple's part that they're actually requiring that. It's just a money grab on their end from my viewpoint, especially since you can just hit up a Walmart and they have a cheap video cable for the iPod, which is like $10. But now if you got to shell out money for a proprietary cable or for a proprietary dock, I think it's pretty ridiculous. Again, I haven't actually tried it, so I can't confirm or deny it, but that's what I've been reading. So let me go back to the settings here. Let's look at photos. We can set the slideshow settings here. We can set whether to shuffle the pictures, to repeat pictures. We can set the transition. Let's go back here to the settings. Let's pull up the Safari web browser here. We can turn JavaScript on, plugins on and off, block pop-ups, accept cookies. We can clear history, clear cookies, and we can also set the default search engine up here at the top, which I currently have at Google, as you can see there. Let's go back to settings and look at the very last thing, which is contacts, and where we can set the sort order and the display order. That's pretty much it for the general settings. So let's go ahead and go back to the desktop here, and let's look at the dock down here on the bottom. And let's look at the very first icon, which is music. So let me tap on that. Let me go ahead and go to the playlist here. And playlists here are just your standard playlists that you can create in iTunes and sync to the iPod Touch. And they will appear here, of course. Let me go ahead and go to artists here. And that gives us just a list of the different artists, which I currently have here on the iPod Touch. We can just scroll through the list of artists here using my finger. However, we can also turn the iPod Touch on its side here, and we can use cover flow and look at the different artists via the cover flow option here. We can just flip through the albums here, find an artist we want to listen to. Now let's look at Green Day here. Let me just tap on that. It'll show us the different songs I have for this album. If I wish to listen to this song, I can just tap on the song here and it will start playing. Alright, so let's go back here. Just look at the different albums again here, cycle through them. And I really like the cover flow, it's pretty cool. So let me go back to the music options here. Let's go ahead and look at songs here. The songs are listed alphabetically, of course. Again, we can go back to cover flow and look at albums. Let's pick Aerosmith 9 Lives here. We can see the different songs for that album here. I can pick a song, it'll start playing. Let's go back to the vertical display here. Let's look at the albums. It'll show us a list of albums here. We can flick through that, and again, we can go to the... let me go back here. Get the albums, there we go. And again, we can turn it horizontally and just look at the cover flow. The cover flow works quite nicely. There isn't any slowdown that I've noticed. There was a little bit of slowdown on the iPod Nanos, but I believe they've actually worked that out now. So, all right, so let me go ahead and go back to the menu here. And at the very end here, there's this other option here. It brings up audiobooks, compilations, composers, genres, and podcasts here. Let me go ahead and tap on podcasts. Now, currently the only podcast listed here is This Week in Tech, which is kind of strange because I have more than just one podcast currently on the iPod Touch. Let me go ahead and go back to the playlist here and look at the most recently added here. If you look here, I have another one called Mac Break Weekly. And this one is also from Leo Laporte, of course. And let me go back to the music here. And if you'll notice, that was not listed on the podcast. The other one listed is This Week in Tech. Now, I'm not quite sure why that is. I don't know if it's a bug in the iPod Touch itself or what it is. But again, This Week in Tech actually shows up under the podcast. And let me go back and look at... No, let's get out of this. No, close. Look at the artists here. Let me bring up Leo Laporte. If you look up Leo Laporte, you'll actually see another podcast, which is known as The Tech Guy. But you'll notice that This Week in Tech, as well as Mac Break Weekly, are not listed here. Let me go back, go to the playlist here, look at the recently added, and there again we have Mac Break Weekly. And it's there, it's currently playing, but it doesn't show up anywhere else except the recently added. So again, I'm not quite sure why this is. All of the information for this actual audio file indicates that it's a podcast. In fact, the information is practically the same as This Week in Tech. So why it's not showing up under the podcast banner there, I'm not quite sure, other than the fact that it might be a bug. Hopefully at some point in the future this will be fixed. If it is a bug, if it's not a bug, I'm pretty much given up on trying to figure out what's going on. So if you're someone who listens to a lot of podcasts, you might have to do a bunch of searching around to find the podcast you want to listen to. So all right, so that's the music portion. Now let me go ahead and get out of here and we'll push the menu button here twice, and that'll bring up this little control here, which allows us to pause the song. We can skip forward, we can skip backward. We have the volume control here. We also have the button which will take us back to the music here, as you can see. We go ahead and go back to the desktop here. Next I'll show you the videos here. Now these are the videos I currently have on the iPod Touch. We have one movie, Back to the Future, and two TV shows, The Big Bang Theory and an episode of Knight Rider. Let me go ahead and tap on Back to the Future here. And the video is loading here. And as you can see, the video automatically starts in the widescreen horizontal display here. So you have to turn the iPod Touch to its side here. And we have a full motion video here. And it looks really nice, especially in person. Now again, there's no external speaker here, so you have to use the headphone jack there. But the video looks really good. As you can see, we do have black bars at the top and bottom, displaying the video in its default aspect ratio here. However, if we tap on the screen and look at this little button here, we can tap on that and that will actually zoom the video in. Now it does cut off a little bit of the top and bottom, but if you wish to fill the entire screen, you do have that option there. And we can also use the slider here at the very top to skip to any point in the movie. And if we look down here at the bottom, we have a little controls, which allows us to skip forward and backwards using the different chapters. And we have the slider bar on the bottom here for the volume, and we can pause and play the video here. So when you're done watching the video, just tap the screen, brings up the controls again, you tap on the done button, and will take us back to the videos here, and we hit the menu button again, and that will take us back to the desktop. And next up here we have photos. Let me go ahead and tap on that. I don't currently have any photos here, but you can sync them from iPhoto. Once you do load them up, it'll display them here in a grid format. You can run them through a slideshow. You can double tap on them to select the pictures. You can zoom in on pictures using the finger gestures for zooming in and for zooming out, just like we did on Safari. It works quite nicely. I think it's a great way to show off pictures to family and friends. All right, so let's get back out of here, and let's get to my probably favorite feature here on the iPod Touch, and that is the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store. This thing has been sucking quite a bit of my money out of my bank account, so let me go ahead and load this up here, and that will bring us up to the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store homepage, and we're currently looking at the new releases here. We have Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan at the top there. We can just scroll our way through the new releases here. Let's see what's currently hot here. We can tap up here and see the genres. Down here at the bottom, we can check out the top 10s, which are separated by genre. We can search here. Let me go ahead and search for Transformers. And as you can see, we have a nice full QWERTY keyboard here. The only thing I don't like about the keyboard while searching in the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store is that the keys are kind of close together, so it can be pretty hard to type, especially if you have large fingers. Now this application doesn't support the widescreen format. Let me go ahead and turn it to the side here. As you can see, the image doesn't actually change to a widescreen view. In the widescreen view, the keyboard is spread out across the bottom of the iPod. The keys are actually spread out a bit farther, so it is a little bit easier to type here. Alright, so I typed in Transformers here. Let's do a search here. Brings up all the albums and songs which contain the word Transformers. Let me go ahead and tap on the Transformers album here. You can buy the entire album. You can buy individual songs. I already own this, so I'm not going to buy it and just demonstrate it here for you. But it does work pretty nicely. So let me go ahead and tap on one here. It says buy now. If you tap on the buy now, it'll ask you to input your iTunes password. Upon doing that, it'll instantly download that onto your iPod Touch. And once it's fully downloaded, you can listen to it. It'll appear on in your library there. So if you're someplace and a song just pops into your head, you can just pull up the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store, if you have Wi-Fi access, of course. Look up a song and instantly download it, and you'll be good to go. And as sparse as the iPod Touch is on applications, this is without a doubt my favorite. And let me go back to the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store here. And once you actually sync this thing back up to the computer, all the songs that you've downloaded via the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store will instantly sync onto your computer, and it will show up in your iTunes library. So you don't have to touch anything or pull up any options or anything. It just does it automatically. So those are the features and applications of the iPod Touch.
Alright, so I've gone over the iPod Touch along with its capabilities. Now let me lay out whether you should buy this thing or not. And to do that, I'm going to go over a list of pros and cons here. And we'll start with the pros first. And at the top of that list is the touchscreen interface. For me, it's worked absolutely flawlessly. I've had no problems with it. It's worked just like I wanted it to. So that's number one on the list. Next up, we have the widescreen display, which is perfect for watching movies, watching TV shows, and with a device you can even stream video straight from the internet and watch it in full screen, which is really quite nice. We also have the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store, and this thing's been sucking a lot of my money away. If you're someplace and a song pops into your head and it's not currently on your iPod, but you do have internet access via Wi-Fi, hey, you just hop on the iTunes Wi-Fi Music Store, download the song, and it's instantly on your iPod. You don't have to sync it with a computer or anything. And last but not least on this list here is the internet capabilities. You have a fully functional Safari web browser, so you can view practically any website that you want. So if you're on the go, you can check your email, you can check the news. I love it. So, and again, you can pull up the web browser. If there's a website that's got streaming video, you can pull that up and watch it in full screen. So it works out quite well. Now let me go over the list of cons here that I have for you. Firstly, going back to the web browser, there's currently no Flash support built in. So if you visit websites frequently that have a lot of Flash videos or Flash navigation or something, you're going to find that you're not going to be able to access those sites. Hopefully Flash will be implemented in a future software update. I'm hoping it's pretty soon, but at this point I'm not quite sure. Next up on the cons list, there's no external volume controls. Now, what do you need these for on a touchscreen device, you might ask? Well, without them, the device really isn't functional. If you want to use it for exercising, riding your bike, jogging, you have to actually turn the device back on. You have to unlock the device if it's been turned off. And if you don't currently have the volume controls up, you got to bring those up. And you have to look at the screen to see what you're doing. So it's really not functional if you're using it to exercise with. Now the iPhone, I believe, does have external volume controls. I wish that was something that they would have kept on here. Maybe in the iPod Touch 2.0 we'll see something along those lines. But on this device we currently don't have those. And last but not least, you currently cannot download video through the iTunes Wi-Fi music store. Hopefully that will change in the future, but as it stands, you can't do that. And one other con, which I don't have on my list here, but I'll bring up, Apple removed the feature to use the iPod as an external storage device. On previous iPod models, you could stick the iPod into the USB port on your computer. It would recognize it as an external hard drive, and you could use it for storage. You can't do that with the iPod Touch, so that would have been kind of nice to be able to use the 8 gigabytes on my iPod Touch, 16 on the other model, for external storage, but hey, Apple got rid of that. Alright, so now, should you buy this thing or should you pass on it? Tech whores will probably pick it up. You probably already picked it up. Other people who want to use this device during exercising or running or something along those lines, you may want to pass on this and pick up the new iPod Nano. They do have video capabilities. The screen is smaller and there are no internet capabilities, but you can watch the video and you can easily change your song or change the volume without looking at the device. So I do recommend picking it up, but you might want to wait for the iPod Touch 2.0 upgrade at some point in the future. Alright, so this is Jesse from TooEarly.tv signing off on the iPod Touch video review.